So there are different types of presentation. First one is what we call the informative one. Informative is just that we are delivering some sort of knowledge. We're trying to transfer some sort of skills to another person. So that's informative, very much like what I'm doing right now. I am passing on a knowledge to you. So that's informative presentation. And number two is instructional. Instructional would be something like informative, but you guide people step by step into maybe learn how to use Photoshop. Okay, something that we find on YouTube quite often, that people just film a video and teach you instructions on how to do something, or like a cooking, how to make this particular dish that everyone loves. So that's instructional. And number three is arousing. Okay, very much like a commercials, that you arouse people's interest so people would take action. So arousing presentation is also a part of persuasive presentation, because you're trying to get people's interest so they would take action to purchase the product. And next one is decision making. So decision making will happen a lot in the meeting room. You are trying to give a presentation so the leaders in the room can make that final decision. So decision making presentation is also a part of persuasive presentation. Okay, so now that we have this many type of presentation, but what are the common ones that we use? The most common ones are the informative presentation and persuasive presentation. So if you're a teacher like me, informative, the first one, would be something that we will be doing, which is less stressful. But for my classes, I would hope that my lectures, my classes, my training sessions would be persuasive presentation, because some of the techniques other people may not agree with me. And, like English teachers would say, hey, Ross, you're supposed to teach sentence structures. You're supposed to give them the sentences so they can copy and finish that sentence. No, not in my class, because me being a communication coach, I want you to understand that learning other people's sentence is not good enough to persuade other people. There's no feeling, okay? There's no soul in your message. Your message has to come from your heart. That's your unique way of communication. What I'm teaching you is to construct an answer based on proven strategies, based on psychologies that we can change people's mind, change people's decision-making process, because communication is supposed to be persuasive. Okay, so that is why I am not an English teacher, because I don't believe in teaching phrases would help you succeed. No, that is why so many schools that train people to learn English, and none of them actually thrive in the market, like a job market. Okay, none of them thrive in business field, because they do not understand still the fundamental knowledge of communication, because they only learn about grammar points. They only learn about vocabularies, which you're supposed to achieve when you are still in the early stage of your language learning process. And the reason why I am teaching you something more complex is because presentation, interview, resume, and all those things that we need in the business, real business world, requires real communication skills. Okay, so, and let me tell you one thing. My English is not 100% perfect, and I don't really care for that. I only care if my voice is heard. I only care if my message brings results. That's all. Okay, so persuasive presentation is so important, and this is something that we need to master as early as we could throughout your career. So if you're starting your career and you want your career to thrive to a different levels, this class is something that you really have to pay attention to. And in fact, all the presentation classes that you have to pay attention to because they're really important. Okay, so informative presentation, there's always purposes for everything that we do. For the first one, it's sharing information or to teach, okay? So you want to teach them something, so you have to pass on the information to someone else. So that's teach. But for my classes, I pass knowledge, not information. Information I can give you and I can read off, and then I expect you to understand. That's passing information. But for me, I would say that it's persuasive because I'm passing a knowledge to you because I explain to you the reason why we do this. And I want you to trust me that this would help you. And I want to convince you to change the way we communicate, to change the way we think about English learning. Okay, so you can also get to the level where I am with communication one day, which is not far. Okay, as I said, that if I can do it, you can do it too. Okay, so examples, how-to topics. You know, if you go on Google and type in how-to, and then you'll get like a lot of websites, like how to make this, how to cook that, and how to build a computer. So how-to is informative presentation. Next one, persuasive presentation, would be purpose to convince listeners to accept your proposal. Okay, so you are convincing people to change their behavior. So to accept your argument, to accept your proposal, that's persuasive presentation. So why introverts make good leaders? So I am going to persuade the audience why shy people, the quiet ones, would be great leaders. And people will be like, huh, really? Okay, I want to listen to this one now. Convince me, okay? I don't buy it right now, but tell me about your reasonings, okay? So that's persuasive presentation. But persuasion, what's persuasion? It's the art of convincing people to do what you want them to do. Sounds powerful, right? To a point, like it even sounds kind of scary. You're trying to convince people to do something that you want them to do. If you possess the skill, how convenient do you think your life would be? You know, it's so wonderful to be able to convince other people, okay, to follow your lead, to take actions based on your recommendation. So that's persuasion. So how do we do it? You have three components, which we talked about briefly in other classes as well. So ethos, pathos, and logos. It's actually a very old idea. How old? 2,300 years ago. Aristotle came up with these three things. These are the pillars of persuasion. If you can include three elements in your persuasive message, you can change people's behavior. So credibility is how credible, how believable your message is, and how you as a speaker is credible to the audience. What makes you qualified to tell me to act on something? That's credibility. And pathos is emotion. You want to build that pain, the hurt, the will to change. Okay, that's pathos. And logos is the logic. Okay, so after you change people's emotion, it's time to plant some logic, some evidence, so people would say, oh, okay, I believe you now because there's evidence laid out on the table that I can see your suggestions work. So ethos, pathos, logos, very important elements to include.